Our next presenter is someone that probably many of you are familiar with. He's written more than a few books on the topic of agile practices. He's an active contributor to websites, very experienced coach, and today he's going to be talking to us specifically about agile management. Please welcome to the stage with a warm round of applause, Ben Linders.
Thank you. Well, looking at agile management, let's start this off with a question. And I got a question here for you here in the room. If you hear the terms agile management, what's the first word that comes to mind? And shout it out. What's the first word that you think of when you hear agile management? Anybody?
Full of shit.
Full of shit? Okay. Anybody else?
Coaching.
Sorry, can you say? Coach. Okay, I can understand that term, like a different kind of role, different kind of manager there. Anybody else wants to shout out?
Contradiction.
Sorry?
Contradiction.
Contradiction. Well, some people call it an oxymoron, like, okay, can you really be an agile manager? Well, agile is about self-organizing stuff in there, and managing is about telling people what to do. So can those two go together? Well, there's a challenge there. Anybody else who wants to add a word to this? Sorry. Getting? Sorry, I can't hear. Can you shout out louder, please?
Delivering value.
Delivering value. I like that word. Exactly. That's what I think is about in Agile, first of all, but also in Agile management. You look for a way how you can teams to deliver more value in there. It's the end result that counts, not the organization, not the management, but the end result that you are delivering. Okay, well, these days I'm mostly going through my own Agile digital transformation. I'm still doing a lot of training and workshops. I also did a workshop here at Stretch Conference. But I'm also making more and more of the knowledge and the experience that I have available to people all over the world. And I try to do that in a digital way. So I call it my own digital agile scaling journey, making the stuff available to the world. It's about the books that I'm writing, which are available. It's also a lot of the games that I use in my webshop, which are available online for people to download. Okay, so much about me. Let's first look at management. And I think part of the discussion about agile management already starts when we look back to the definition of management. And I took this definition from the Oxford dictionaries. So, how do they define management? Well, people managing an organization, regarded collectively, they look at control of a company as a way to do stuff in there. Actually, the overall part says trickery, deceit. Well, a lot of the people who are in management roles are not much brought up with this definition, but are brought up with a lot of things that is based on these kind of definitions that are out there for management. The way that they learned management in school, the way that they learned management on the job being managed by their managers was, okay, you're supposed to take control. You're supposed to tell people what to do. You're supposed to tell people how to do the job. You're supposed to see how they are doing. And if they're not doing well, if you see some problems in there, you're supposed to act on that. This is the kind of way that people have been taught to manage organizations. And now Agile comes in. Well, that makes it a different story because I think management, not only in Agile organization, but management is driving people mad. Not only the people working the organization, by the way, also the managers themselves. There's a lot of managers also who are looking for ways to do their job in a better way, looking for ways to get into collaboration mode with the people in the organization instead of having them to tell to do how to do the job. So it's both the people being managed in the organizations who are looking for better ways, but it's also the people managing the organizations who want to find out, like, is there a different solution to this? Looking at managing Agile teams, let's first explore what an Agile team is all about. And basically, I define an Agile team as people working together to deliver value. Again, the end result is what counts. You want to deliver some result to the people that care about that. It could be the users of your system, could be the use of your services, stakeholders, maybe a combination, but you're looking for a way to deliver value to the people where that matters, delivering something that's useful for them in their daily work, delivering something that's useful for the company in there. And if we go back to the manifesto for Agile software development, we can actually see that in the 4 values which are defined in there. We can see how they focus on individuals and interactions, which is actually telling people as an Agile team to become self-organized. And when I say self-organized, I don't mean self-organized by a Scrum manager who's managing the work. I mean the whole team should become self-organized. The whole team should be able, everybody in the team should be able to manage their own work in collaboration with the other people in the team. We're talking about a team. We're not talking about a group of people together. We're talking about the team where the end result is the thing that counts in there. So we're looking for ways to make the whole work together. We're looking at delivering value. And the real challenge in there is not that much in delivering. The real challenge is in what's value. And that's often where a lot of teams, a lot of organizations have to go on a journey to find out what's really important for their customers. And that's why we see things like continuous integration, continuous delivery taking up, DevOps taking up, because it's shortening the feedback loop that we have in delivery, that we have throughout operations to get our stuff out to the door. We want to get feedback if what we have delivered is indeed something that's valuable to our customers. And we want to know that not as an individual. You don't want to know if your part was okay. You want to know if the whole thing together that the team has delivered is okay. That's the thing that you want to learn from delivering stuff to your customers, to the users of your systems. This is a collaborative approach. And not just collaboration within the team. A lot of stuff is focused on how can you make people work together in the team. Yes, that's important. And yes, that matters. But the collaboration doesn't stop at the edge of the team. Collaboration is also collaboration with your customers. It's also collaboration with the people who are using your software to find out how they are using it, to find out how this is working out for them. So collaboration is throughout the whole system, and that's also what makes it so complex. It's not something that you can stop somewhere. It's something that you really have to take the broader picture on that. And then the last part, responding to change, as the Agile Manifesto tells us. This is about learning how we are doing, learning what's working, learning what's not working. So there might be some stuff that's going wrong. There might be some failures, by the way, big failures, small failures. You want to learn from this, and you're going to use those learnings to adapt your way of working. You're going to use that to decide what do you want to do and what do you want to do differently. Decide how you can change your way of working, your behavior. That's the kind of stuff that you would like to see in an Agile team. So recapping, Agile teams is about self-organization, people working together, self-organized to deliver value, and who are constantly looking for ways to learn and to adapt their way of working. So what's important if you look at teams and teamwork? And this is not just Agile. I think this is basically true for any team. And I think there's 3 things which stand out if you look at what's important in teams. First one on top, purpose. If you want people to work together, if you want people to deliver something of value, it's important that they know the reason why they are there. It's important that they know why they are a team. What's expected from them as a team? What's their purpose being together in this team, in this group of people to deliver something in there? The better that they understand their purpose, the better they will be able to find solutions to fulfill that purpose. And I think certainly if you're a new team starting off in an organization, this is something that you need to spend time on. You need to discuss to find out what that purpose is. You need to check whether your idea of that purpose, the vision that you have, matches with other teams in the organization. If this matches with your stakeholders, if they have the same idea, and how those two can go together in there. An important thing in there is autonomy. You want to give as much autonomy as possible to teams. You want to give them freedom to decide how to do the work. You want to give them freedom to decide where to work on, together again with the people that they are delivering to, but together to decide what will be the best way to deliver maximum value to their customers, to their users. And autonomy is always within boundaries. There's no absolute autonomy. There's always boundaries to what point teams are allowed to take decisions and stuff, and what point they should be involving other people in there. And these boundaries should be flexible. This is something that you can discuss on where that boundary should be and whether it would be something that the team could help if you would shift that boundary. Sometimes you also need to shift it another way. If you're in a crisis situation, if something really needs to happen right now throughout the organization, the autonomy of teams is going to be less. And I think that's a normal situation. If you're like that, you need to act like that. Last thing that's important in teams is safety. And I'm talking here about psychological safety in teams. If you want teams to work, you want people to work together in a team, they need to feel safe in the team. They need to feel safe enough to speak up, to talk about how things are going. They need to be safe enough to say what things are going wrong. If there's a problem, you want to know as soon as possible. So you need to create this kind of psychological safety in your teams. Over the years, I had a lot of people complaining when they had to work in a team, whether there was an Agile team or whether Agile wasn't there yet, the people were put together to work in team. And these are the kind of statements that I heard from people, and you might recognize some of them. So they would say, okay, I'm depending too much on my colleagues. You expect me to get my job done. Previously, I just had a job description. It told me what to do. I just did my job. I delivered my stuff, and then I was done. Right now, I'm depending on my colleagues. I have to communicate with my colleagues. I have to work together to find out what is the things that I should be doing. That's hard. That's difficult. I don't know if I'm doing the right stuff or not. So I may have to work with people which I don't like. I've been thrown in a team with a couple of people in there. I didn't decide who would be in my team. I didn't decide who my colleagues would be. And now I have to work with people. And they have some different ideas, and I'm not really feeling happy with working together with them. So that's the reason that people are bringing up why they hate working in teams. It's also about getting credits. In a lot of organizations, people are used to get credits from the boss. If they've done something right, if they finished something, they want to hear from the boss that they did a good job. If they're working in a team, then it's going to be more difficult to see how everybody contributes in there. And actually, if you work in teams, I encourage managers to credit the team instead of trying to credit individual people in there, because the collaboration which is there in the team, people working together towards a result, it's much more valuable than the individual contribution there. The sum of all these people working together is much bigger than the individual contributions of people in there. So you may be unsure working in a team on what you should contribute. And that makes you feel unsafe, like, okay, previously I knew what I had to do. Right now in the team, okay, what should I do? What are other people doing in there? Yeah, it's a difficult situation. It makes people feel uncomfortable. And I've also seen people who say, well, I know how to do my job, and I know what's important, and I know where to work on, but I'm continuously slowed down by colleagues who are doing other stuff, or who are asking me questions, or you have to go to this team meeting again to discuss a lot of stuff in there. So actually this teamwork is not helping me. These Agile teams are slowing me down. These are the kind of things that I hear from people in organizations that are rolling out Agile and that are rolling out Agile teams right now and are trying to impose team working on people, imposing people on, you should be working in a team right now, you should be behaving as a team, and we want you to work together. Well, that's giving a lot of resistance in the organization. But actually, the funny thing is, if you dig deeper and ask why people hate working in teams, actually, I hear the same reason when I ask when people hated to work together. The reasons are no different. So this difficulty that people have with working in teams actually has nothing to do with teams. it actually even has nothing to do with Agile. These kind of difficulties that we see, these kind of problems that people are stating, they have to do with collaboration. And again, collaboration is not just in a team. Collaboration is within a team, but also outside the team, with the stakeholders, with other teams in your organization, with other teams working on your product or in your project. So it doesn't stop there. So actually, what Agile is doing right now is a good thing, because what Agile is doing is bringing these kind of things to the surface. It is making people aware that collaboration is not an easy thing. And you need to really work on that, and you need to develop your collaboration skills to make these kind of things work in your organization. And Agile is pointing that out. Organizations that are adopting Agile teams right now, they find out pretty soon that there's a lot of issues in there that have to do with how people collaborate. And these issues were there already. Agile is not bringing those issues in. Agile is just bringing them to the surface. Agile is making clear that collaboration is hard work and that we need to work on that if we want to be able to deliver value. And how can we work on collaboration? Well, I pulled out a couple of things that can help if you look at improving collaboration in your organization. One central thing, a shared vision, a shared goal of where you would like people to go. Shared meaning that people have been involved in creating this goal. So this is not a statement that you came up at the top of your organization and that you are rolling out and now expecting everybody to follow your vision. This is, again, a collaborative approach which supports collaboration. Setting such a goal is something that you're going to be doing together with the people in your organization. You're going to be discussing it, you're going to be refining it, see what are the challenges if you want to go towards that vision, as a way to create ownership, to create engagement into this goal so that people feel involved in there. So actually the part of having a shared goal to improve collaboration already starts when you start discussing about this shared vision. That's where the process of collaboration starts already. I think role models in your organization is really important. Look for people in your organizations that are collaborating with a lot of people in an organization. Look for people who act as connectors, who help people to find each other, who help people to find better ways to work together in there. They can be coaches in some organizations. This is the kind of coaching that they may be doing. But they can also have completely technical roles in there. I've seen organizations where actually architects were the ones who were able to connect people in the organizations and get stuff going in the organization. So look for different people who are doing this kind of connection role to stimulate and to encourage collaboration into your organization. Things as transparency and openness are also very important. If you want to stimulate collaboration in the organization, the more openness you can create on what's happening in the organization, the more openness you can create based on your vision, on where you are right now, how people are contributing there, how teams are contributing there. The more you can do that kind of stuff, the more collaboration gets going in your organization. So these kind of things, these kind of activities can help. If you look at the team level, there's activities in there like pair working and mobbing. They're actually giving a setting for people to work together really closely in the team. And these kind of activities initially can be a little bit challenging. If people start doing mobbing in there, start doing pair working, they may feel uneasy at the beginning. But what I've seen with most of the team, once you start doing this and once you have the good environment in there that supports these kind of activities, it's going to be happening more and more. And people know when it's useful to do some kind of mobbing. They know when they have a complex problem that it works much better if they're going to sit together and work on that up to the level where they all understand, okay, now we know where we are, now we are where we should be heading. Now we can break up individually, and perhaps then again we should come together and discuss how we're going to continue on that. So these kind of activities can help to improve collaboration in organizations. What can you do as a manager if you want to improve impediments to collaboration? Well, I think the first thing to be aware of as a manager is that teams can actually remove most of the impediments themselves. And this may sound like a bold statement, but I can actually back it up. In a lot of my workshops, I play what I call the impediment game. This is a game with impediment coaching cards, and there's actually also a board game that I designed where people pick up signals in the organization that there might be some problem, there might be some impediment. Based on the discussions, they find out what the impediment really is, and then as a team, they're asked to come up with a solution and also come up who should be taking action on this impediment. And I divided these actions up in 3 columns where they can put a card with the action to decide who's going to be taking action in there. The first column is any team member. The second column is the Scrum Master. And the third column is somebody external to the team. And when I started this game 4 years ago, I was expecting that a lot of the cards would initially end up in that third column. Like, okay, we got a problem here, and we need some support from our manager to get this problem solved. So we're going to need to reach outside our team to get some help with this because we can't solve this. I've been surprised over and over again to see that most of the cards actually end up in the first column. Team members can do it themselves. And they may need some help from the Scrum Master on coaching or on how to do it, or they may need some help from peer team members to do it, but the teams decide on themselves when they are playing this game, when they're working on solving impediments. They say, yeah, we can do it ourselves. We don't need a Scrum Master. We certainly don't need any external help. We can do it ourselves. So that's my statement to managers. If your assumption still is I'm a manager and I'm supposed to clean out all impediments which are there, or if I'm the Scrum Master, I'm supposed to hunt impediments and get them out of the way, sorry, that's not what's needed, because actually your teams can do it yourself. So take a different perspective on this. So what can you do if you're not supposed to get those impediments out of the way? Well, the first statement, and I'm taking this from Bob Marshall, which defined this as the antimatter principle. Attend to folk needs. Just ask the people in your team what they need and help them with that. Don't tell them what to do, ask them what they need. What can I do for you to solve the problem in there? And I think this is a pretty strong thing if you can do this as a manager and take your team seriously. And there will be times that people will ask you to do stuff where you might think initially like, okay, I'm not sure if that's the right solution. I'm not sure if that's going to work out. Let's assume the team's right. Most of the time they actually are. Most of the time if people ask for stuff, they are right. And if you give them the stuff, it will work out. When in some of the occasions they are not right, the team will find out for themselves. They will find out along the way, like, okay, we got some help from our manager, we got some help from a Scrum Master, but unfortunately that didn't solve the problem. So we have to look for a different way. And don't try to tell the team what to do or how they should be doing it. Trust that your team is able to find a good solution in there. Listen to your team, give them what they need, also give them support. Show them that you trust them to do a good job in there. If there are any barriers in the organization and the team asks you to help in there to break down those barriers, do it. Work against those barriers which have been there traditionally in your organization. As teams are becoming much more cross-organizational, teams become much more end-to-end oriented in your organization, those barriers are going to be more visible than ever. And this is something for you as a manager to work on. But again, work on the barriers that your team brings up as the biggest hurdles right now that they are running against, and work on those ones. And trust your team. Trust that they will be doing the right job. And even if you think that the team is wrong, give them freedom, because you will find out that at the end the team will learn themselves and decide how to do it. So to wrap up, why would people like to work in a team? Well, I think basically the reason for people to work in a team is together they can get much more work done. And that's giving them a lot of satisfaction. They're giving them the feeling that they can really accomplish something. And if they can accomplish something, they will also get credit for delivering something. So working together in a team, if you have the good setting in there, is making people feel happy, making people feel proud about the stuff that they are doing in the organization. They can help each other, work in a team. If you know your colleagues in a team, it's much easier to reach out for help. And it's also much easier to give help if you think that there's something that a colleague is struggling with. You can ask and you can give help in there. You can learn from each other to do things differently. And that's much easier if you have a good team setting in there. And I think for people working in a team, that's important. They feel that they're not alone. They're part of a greater thing. They're part of something and they're delivering something together. So I think these kind of reasons are very good reasons for people willing to work in a team once they've experienced how good teams can actually work. Looking at leading teams, leading agile teams, leading self-organized teams, I want to get one confusion out of the way. A lot of people, if we talk about agile, then they think agile is Scrum, and they look in Scrum, and then they see, okay, Scrum is talking about servant leadership, so okay, if we go to agile teams, we should be implementing servant leadership, and then we're all done. Servant leadership, just as Scrum, is just one of the many possible solutions which are there for supporting, for managing, for leading self-organized team. It has some advantages, it also has some disadvantages. And what I actually think is that as a leader, you don't want to work in just one way of working, one way of leadership. You want to have multiple styles, you want to have practices, you want to have ideas from multiple leadership styles that you can use to help your teams and to get to a good result in there. And here's a list of different kind of leadership practices, approaches which are there. And this is actually a short list. The list itself on the link down on Agile Leadership, and I'm going to post the slides, it's much bigger. But these are some of the techniques that you can use in there. And let's pull out a couple of them. So looking at the first one, intent-based leadership. Who of you have read the book from David Marquet, Turn the Ship Around? Yeah, I see a couple of hands going up. To briefly explain, what David actually explains in the book is that he had prepared himself to become the captain of a submarine. He was all ready to go. And then they told him on the last day before he would start on a new submarine that he would be getting a different kind of submarine. He didn't know about the submarine. He didn't prepare himself for the job of being a captain for that different kind of submarine. So he actually didn't know how to do it, and he was expected to show up the next day to become the captain of that boat. So instead of being the captain and telling the crew on that boat on what they should be doing, he turned it around and he said, like, okay, let's assume that the people who are on this boat know how to operate it. They've been doing it for years already, and I'm just here for the first day, so they probably know how to do this. So let's assume that they know how to do it, and let's give them the space to operate the boat, or I will set out where we want to go with this boat. And when I read this book, it actually reminded me of the first time when I got a project and became a project manager. I got a team assigned to work on the project, and we had to deliver an embedded software part which had to do with solving a complex mathematical problem. And I got a couple of people in my team which were really experts on mathematics. And I didn't know that much about mathematics. To be honest, I hated it. But hell, this was my first project, so you take the assignment. What I had understood from being a project leader, being a project manager, was that I was supposed to tell the people what to do. So I started on my first day exploring what we needed to do, handing out work to the different people in there, and trying to tell them how to do their job. And two of the people pulled me in the second day in the morning and asked me, like, Ben, there's something we need to talk about with you. You're trying to tell us how to do your job. We're both pretty expert mathematicians. We know how to solve this problem. And you told us that you hate mathematics. Wouldn't it work better if you just give us space to come up with what we think will be a good solution for this and to work together on this instead of you telling us how to do your job. Well, that made perfect sense for me. It was contradiction to all the stuff that I'd learned about being a project manager, being a leader. But the way that they stated it made a lot of sense to me. So I said, yeah, okay, let's do it. Provided that you tell me if you need anything, let me know. Because it's not about, okay, now it's your problem. No, I still want to be there to help you. But I don't want to be there to tell you how to do your job, because you know how to do your job. Well, this kind of relying on the people in your team and allowing them to decide how to do their work, that made a big difference in this project. Looking at some of the other leadership approaches and styles in there, invitation-based leadership. The book about this, written by Dan Messick, where we explained that if you want to get stuff going in the organization, instead of telling people how to do it, send out an invitation and invite them to become part of the change in the organization. Set out what you're aiming at, set out the goal, and ask them to join in. Ask them to react to you whether they want to do this or whether they don't want to do this. And I actually interviewed Dan on this and looked at him and said, like, okay, but you're sending out an invitation and you're expecting people to react and you're expecting people to buy in and to do it. But what if they don't do this? What do you do? And he said, well, it's pretty simple. You just look at what you ask them to do and you slice it into half and you just ask the first half part. You do it again, you ask the first half part. And invite them again to see if they want to do that. And if it doesn't work, you're going to slice it again. And you may need to slice it for 3 or 4 or 5 times and sending it out and asking them again if they want to be part of this, making it smaller and smaller and smaller. Up to some point in time that people will start responding and people will say, yeah, we want to be part of this. We want to work on this. We want to collaborate with you on this kind of stuff. And this is going to happen. Sounds pretty agile, right? Slicing it down into smaller, most valuable pieces that you want to see from your people, and up to the point that they say, yeah, we want to participate in that. We see the value from this and want to help you with that. I would actually encourage leaders in this room, if they send out for our next improvement initiative, to do some slicing already before they send it out. Because probably your request is going to be too big, it's going to turn people against you. So before you send it out, try to slice it already to something smaller, and then send it out and ask them to join in there. If you look at the different kind of leadership styles, there's some of the things in there which stand out, which I see in multiple leadership styles as a kind of mindset, as a kind of base for this kind of leadership that helps to get this across. It's things like safe to fail, creating an environment in your organization where it's okay for people to experiment, to try out new stuff, to do something. And even if it goes wrong, there's not going to be a big problem in there, but it's going to give them learning opportunities. But it's making it safe for them to do new things instead of just following whatever we've been doing for the past 20 years already. It's about looking for feedback, looking for ways to get feedback on how things are going and to learn from that. It's also about coaching people, but also being coached. Also being coached as a leader, I think, is very important in there. It's not just about coaching people, but also being coached as a leader in there. And it's about giving trust. And giving trust can be a challenge, I know. I try to actually give trust by default. So if I work with people, if I get a request from somebody, I basically trust by default that whatever they are asking me right now, or whatever they think that we should be doing together, is based on real, genuine intentions. It's something that's valuable. So I trust them from the start instead of trying to build in a lot of stuff to check whether it's actually valuable. And that actually works out most of the time, and it saves me a lot of time on checking and following up and seeing how things are going by just trusting that people want to do a good job. They usually want. So what are the things that we can do in organizations to create a teamwork culture? I think what you want to do is to guide self-organization. So you want to help people to find out how they can self-organize themselves, but it's guiding. It's not telling them how to self-organize. It's giving them space to find their own way how self-organization will work for them. It's using stuff from these modern leadership approaches to actually manage people, to help people to find better ways of working in there. And last but not least, also as a leader, be an example. So if you want your people to be open and to be honest about stuff, you also got to be open and honest about stuff. So seek out for the leadership that you want to have in your teams, in your organization. Make sure that you are the leader who has the same behavior in there of what you're expecting from your people. And if you look for practical ways how to organize this kind of teamwork in your organization, I think what's very important in there is to set up stable teams. So instead of changing people over teams all of the time and allocating people to the work, set up a stable team and start allocating the work to the team. Give the team room, give them time to develop themselves, to find their own way of working and to improve in there. Embrace diversity. We saw in the previous presentation already the value that diversity can bring, diversity in different aspects. So I think it's a very important aspect to get in there. And look for some way to have continuous improvement in the way that you're managing your teams. There's a lot of benefits from Agile team. I think the most important one for managers is actually the first one. You're going to get rid of micromanagement. If you allow the team to organize themselves, there's going to be a lot of less stuff that you need to be managing as a manager. There's a lot of stuff that the team can manage themselves, and that's giving you a lot of more room to look at other things important in the organization, to work at other stuff, to work at longer-term initiatives, to look at the overall organization, to get a better overview of what's happening in your organization, and to focus on that. What if it doesn't work? Well, basically, build in time to reflect, build in time to learn. Agile retrospectives are a great mechanism to do these kind of things that can help you to improve in there. But build in stuff that you can see how things are going. Develop your team working skills. Make sure that you have time for that. And you also might want to get some coaching, looking at collaboration, looking at team working, or you might want to develop some internal coaching in your organization to get this kind of stuff done. One big advice that I want to give to managers: stop calling your people resources. People are not resources. People are not a number in a spreadsheet. People are not assets. People are people. And if you want to respect the people, please mind your language and stop using the word resources when you're talking about people. Just one thing you can get away from this presentation, please. I think this is the most important statement in there. Some other things to stop. As I mentioned earlier on, stop micromanaging. Stop telling people what to do. Stop telling people how to do their work. Stop putting pressure on team, assuming that if we put a lot of pressure on them, their results are going to go up. They don't. If you put pressure on teams, their results will actually go down. And also, don't be a jerk. And if you're wondering if you are a jerk, ask your team members. You can see it probably, you can see it on their faces, and if not, ask if you are a jerk. I was a jerk on my first project. Certainly for the first 2 days. It was better along the way. The first 2 days, I was a jerk. Luckily, the people in my team told me that I was acting as a jerk. Don't try to micromanage us. Give us space, we can do the job. Okay, let's do it. If you're in doubt if something that you should be doing as a manager is a good thing, don't do it. And see what happens. See if the team can self-organize around it, can solve the problem themselves without having you to solve it. So the things you can do as a manager: listen to your people, listen what they need and help them with that. Value any collaboration, even the smallest part of collaboration which is there. Tell people that it's important, help them to work together in there. Reward team results, reward the whole. And also look where there's any fear, where there's any point in time in your organization, anything in your organization that doesn't make people feel safe. Drive out that kind of fear out of your organization, that people feel psychologically safe to do a good job in there. And last thing but least, to the developers in the team, your managers are also people. It's not just about people, managers saying that you're resources. Managers are also people, so please stop calling them management or business or them or something like that. Managers are also coming to work to do a good job, to do their job the best they can. So call them by their name, treat your managers as you would like to be treated by your managers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. It seems we have problems on Teams based on these questions. Let's start with the first one. Very smart, very high-tech people with terrible collaboration skills. How to best fit them into an organization?
Well, I think first of all, it's checking like, okay, how bad are their collaboration skills? Because a lot of the people working in the team, working in the organization, they may appear to have bad collaboration skills in there. And then you look at their home situation, then you look at how they are acting when they're not at work, when they're going out with their friends. And it turns out that actually they know how to collaborate, they know how to do stuff together. They can do things together with other people in there. So I'm not sure if the people really have bad collaboration skills. I think most of the time it's actually in the environment that's making them feel unsafe. It's in the expectations that the organization has set upon people why they are acting in a certain way. So I think much of this stuff in there is not in the people, it's in the system. If we address the system, a lot of the collaboration is going to happen because most of the people are able to do stuff with other people and they want to do it together.
I think the next question is also related to that topic, kind of, but now we are talking about a leader who was elected based on technology but has bad interpersonal skills, sorry. Well, how do we deal with a leader? The question actually says fix.
Well, fixing a leader is one thing. I'm not sure if you can actually fix people in there. I think the challenge would be to have a discussion with that leader, and I'm not sure if you can do that if you're part of the team being led by the leader, but I think it's certainly something that the manager around it can do to see how comfortable those people feel in the role that they have got assigned. In the first organization where I was working, my manager was something like this. He didn't want to be leading people, but that was the only way to make a career in this organization. And once they found out that there was also a different way to reward his skills, then he started to feel much more comfortable. I had people along the way who were in my classes, and when we were discussing stuff, I felt like, okay, you're acting as a product owner right now, but if I hear you talking, the way that you want to work with your team sounds much more like an Agile coach. Why not change roles? And also the other way around. So check with people on what role they want to be comfortable in there.
We talked about individuals, now let's jump onto teams. We have a team that has extremes. For example, star player, low performer, Mr. Smartass. How to improve collaboration in such a team?
Well, actually, funny thing, one of the situations that I find to deal with this is to bring out this kind of behavior and make it very visible. I see a lot of the stuff, by the way, if we're doing retrospectives in teams, where this kind of behavior seems to pop up. And I actually created a game where I assigned roles to this extreme in there and asking people to make this kind of retrospective. Once people become aware that they are actually acting like this and the team feels safe enough to react on that, there should be a way out of there. But again, it starts by making it visible and making it something that you would like to discuss in there. I think the other thing is also to make clear where's your limit. What's the kind of behavior that you are tolerating? And the baddest behavior that you are tolerating in your team, that sets the line on what your team is going to behave. So if you don't tolerate it, that's also going to make a difference.
For the last question that we have time for, actually I love how we are kind of growing. We started in individuals and teams, and now we are going to talk about collaboration between teams. How to improve collaboration between teams so all teams in the department can work together better.
If you look at teams together in a department or in a product or a project, what I've seen, it often starts with the total vision. It starts with the total goal that you see in there as a department, as a project. And by the way, if you're not able to really define a good goal, a good vision for your department, then you may wonder why these teams are actually there in your department. If there's no good reason for them to work together, why are they bundled into this department? Maybe you want to have another structure in there. Look at the goal in there. Set out activities that will help people to develop their skills to work together, to discuss stuff in there. Things like open spaces can be very helpful, where people can bring up their own topics, start discussing on that, and look for ways to collaboratively solve issues in there. If you look at organizations that are adopting Scrum and Agile, Scrum of Scrums, where you pick up stuff where teams have problems, which you see coming back in different teams in there. Again, making it visible and addressing the kind of problems can be a great way to get this out of the way. But make sure that you make time available for people to really develop their collaboration skills.
Thank you so much, Ben. It was an honor having you here. This is just a little something from an organizational
Thank you.
team. Thank you.